Hey there, it is Alicia from aliciacarlson.com, and I want to continue the conversation about healthy, happy holidays. And specifically today, we are going to be talking about ditching the diets, ditching the fad diets, and all of that, whether you start before the holidays are over or you wait until January to get started with the rest of the world. So let's first talk about what a diet is. In my opinion, there are two ways that you can look at the word diet. You can use it as a noun, which is just described as a way that a certain group of people eat, or you can use it as a verb, which seems to be definitely the more mainstream, popular way to look at diet. And that is, I'm going on a diet, meaning I'm going to intentionally restrict calories, macros, a certain food group, whatever it is. I'm going to restrict myself in my eating in order to usually lose weight or lose fat. Now, for me, it all kind of starts with the mindset. You're going to hear a lot of people use the word diet in the noun sense, and I think that that's okay. However, I feel like I see a lot of people that would claim that they have given up dieting, they're not going to diet anymore, but yet they are still living as if they are dieting. So if you find yourself kind of counting and restricting your macros, or counting and restricting your calories or points or portions, or trying to always live in a calorie deficit, you are still dieting. And it can be really confusing. It can definitely be very overwhelming, because healthy lifestyles and wellness looks good, and it looks like we're really actively making some different choices and kind of moving away from diets. But oftentimes it still is just a diet kind of masked with this new it's just wearing a new mask that makes it seem a little bit less diety, but it still is kind of there. So let's talk about why specifically I want to invite you and encourage you not to go down the road of diets, period, whether it's now before the new year or at the end of the holiday season in January, when everybody is itching to get, back onto the health and fitness wagon. So first of all, diets tend to set us up to fail. And the reason this is because it's usually a pretty strict set of rules that we have to follow in order to reach our goals. And for most people, playing by those rules forever is not a realistic lifestyle. Second of all, restriction. All diets include some form of restriction when you're using the word diet in the verb like we talked about. And just the thought of restricting something, like let's say you eat kind of whatever you want and however much quantity, but now all of a sudden I tell you, or somebody tells you, you've got to cut out carbs in order to lose weight, or you've got to start eating a very strict 1,200 calorie diet every single day. All of a sudden, just the idea of restricting makes you want that thing even more. It's like when I tell my kids that they can't have a certain thing, or maybe I've got a plate of cookies sitting on the counter and I tell them that they cannot eat any of those. What are they always thinking about? That cookie. I can't have the cookie, but I want the cookie. It's the same thing for us. The more that we tend to restrict, the more rules we impose on our health and our fitness and our relationships with food, the more we want to rebel. So just thinking about that restriction and having that there can kind of drive the urge to break that restriction. And let's be very clear. I know that there are a lot of anti-diet dietitians or coaches out there that kind of advocate for, or they look at having self-control as being something that's bad. And I don't think that. I think that you can have, and I think that you should have self-control when it comes to food. I don't think that you need to have rules and that you need to have restriction there. So let's kind of differentiate between restriction and self-control. Restricting to me feels like it's a very forced thing. It's like, it's off limits. Self-control is being mindful and making choices with intention. When it The other things that I see a lot with dieting, whether it's the macros, the calories, the points, whatever kind of a diet that you're on or not on, you're cutting out nutrients that your body needs. By default, if you are restricting calories or if you are restricting certain amounts of certain foods, you're going to be cutting out those nutrients that your body needs to recover, that your body needs just to perform its daily functions, just so that you are feeling good and that you can keep up and do the other things in life. Lastly, it keeps us feeling bad. Diets tend to keep us feeling bad about ourselves, and so we keep coming back. This kind of points back to that first tip or that first point, that they are set up in a way to make us fail. And that's kind of how they're designed, is it's so strict, it's so restrictive that most people cannot do it for a lifestyle. And so we keep failing and we keep coming back more, except every time we come back to the diet plate, we are feeling worse about ourselves because we failed again, or we messed up, or we made a mistake. So just to recap, instead of going down kind of that same avenue of jumping on the bandwagon of what everybody else is doing, whatever diet or craze that you see all over social media or you see in advertisements, those are all going to promote those behaviors of restricting. Usually if setting us up to fail, it may not be right now, but at some point you're going to reach that capacity. So instead of looking at that restriction, of looking at setting super tight food rules, I want to invite you to think about doing it a little bit differently. Maybe think about just slowing down when you're eating, being more intentional and being more mindful with the food choices that you're making, and really making sure that you're enjoying everything that you're putting in your mouth. Move your body just a little bit every day in whatever way feels good, and talk kindly to yourself. What way could you compliment yourself now that you maybe haven't been doing in the past? So just kind of flipping that script in your brain, slowing down when you eat, making mindful and intentional choices, and moving your body just a little bit every day. I promise you this is going to be a much more sustainable and enjoyable way for you to reach all of your goals without any of the stress or any of the struggles that come along with those fad diets. I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Where do you see yourself at now? You can go ahead and leave those in the comments below, and I'll talk to you again very soon.